is torn. I think sometimes we're busy down at the bottom trying to sew that stupid thing back up. I mean, it's crazy how we do that. But we do, you know. It's more comfortable on the other side of the veil. That he calls us in to his presence. You know, today, we're first Sunday of January, and, I just felt like I've got in my heart, here we come. Let's go. You know, this year, we can look at it and go, oh, Lord, my goodness. We got, and list all our problems and, look at the mountain to climb and all that kind of stuff and get all negative and all that. Or we can get our eyes on him and say, let's go. Let's go. And I'm not talking about a emotional thing, because if this is what I'm saying, if it's just about emotion, then by about 3 o'clock today, we'll all be, and that will just die right off. Yeah, emotions do this and they do this. And that's normal. That's not, we don't have to be mad that they do this. That's just what they do. But when we have a relationship, that's different. And our relationship, my relationship with my wife, it's not contingent upon my emotion nor hers to me. There's a commitment. There's something real. There's something that is eternal because God's in it. And so regardless of what I feel like, that has nothing to do with our commitment. That never changes. The same is true in what he is calling us to as we walk out our faith. It's not, 1982, man, that was a really good time. Well, great, I'm happy for you. But today is today. And what are we doing today for him? Are we drawing close to him and letting him be God in our life? Now, if we allow him to do that, prepare to change. Okay? And that gets that's a little scary. Well, do we trust him? Do we? I'm hearing yes, and we declare yes, and then we start doing it, our knees start knocking. What does that mean, God? And he says, trust me. I have your best interests in mind. I know what's best for you. I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. It doesn't mean everything is going to be fun. Doesn't mean that. We can trust him. So last week we were talking about the church in Ephesus and Revelation chapter 2, and the word to them, there were a handful of things they were doing really good. And then we talked about 4 and 5 where Jesus says, yet I hold this against you. I hold this against you. You have forsaken your love, the love that you had at first. And we talked about how love is not the emotion. It's not based on that. And we talked about how God gives us emotion and he gives us feeling, and that's good. Sometimes the church, they run from emotion because, shouldn't be all about emotion. You're right, it shouldn't all be about emotion. That doesn't mean if you have emotion, then you discount it. Okay? That's being immature, quite frankly. In my relationship with my wife, there's good emotion. I'm not supposed to discount that. That fuels the times where many times you don't have as much emotion. That's part of the journey. And those times where God gives us those special times where we feel him, that's a gift. It's a gift. Let's receive it. And those times where it seems like we're at the bottom of the Grand Canyon and he's 1,000,000 miles away, we trust he's still there. He's just as close as he was when we felt him. But we trust And we just keep moving forward. So we talked about so what is this love? If he's saying that we've forsaken that, and it's not our emotion. We can't go, well, I remember feeling him back then, but I don't really feel him now. That has nothing to do with anything. That's a gift that he gives when he wants because he's sovereign. So what is it? What is this love? It's that heart that tells him, God, I'll do whatever you say. I'll do whatever you say. That was that first love. When we met him, when we experienced him and we said, God, you're so good and I'll do whatever you say. That's what he's talking about. The choice, the commitment. That's the thing that we're referencing. And so we went on and we looked at, and I'm going to wrap up the review here pretty quickly, but we talked about, so what is love? What is love? Well, according to Scripture, 2 John verse 6 says, and this is love, that we walk in obedience to his commands. 1 John 5:3, in fact, this is love for God. How do we show our love for God? We listen to him and we respond. Think about, again, in that spousal relationship, if my wife talks to me and I ignore her, but then every now and then I go, I love you. Do I really love her? No, I'm showing her with my actions. I don't love her. I'm not loving her. I'm showing that with my actions. The actions, that's love. And so when we are talking to God, we can go, oh, God, I love you. Love you, God. But then we just do whatever we do. And I'm not actually interested in what he has to say for me or to me or what I'm supposed to be about in this world or, I'm doing what I'm doing. And God, these are my plans and I'd really appreciate if you'd bless them. Well, that's not me loving him. He gave his life, his son's life for me. And now, in return, my response to him is, my life is not my own now. It's not my own now. The problem we have in church is we don't really walk that out. My life's not my own now, but except in this area. As long as you don't make me give this up, and as long as I get to still do this, and as long as I got all these conditions to him. And quite frankly, he's not so worried about all that stuff. He probably let you have it, but he's going, you got to give it to me first. You got to let go. You don't get to come to me and say, oh yeah, you love me, but no, I don't get to do that. That's not love. That's not a real relationship. So we understand that love is listening to him and then responding. So this past week, this verse, man, I was reading through, I was just going through Matthew, and man, he got me with this verse. He made me stop, and he had me get my journal out and write it. Write out this verse. Not just read it, but he's like, write it down. So I'm writing it down, and he says, now slow down and look at it. And it says in Matthew 7:24, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine. Okay, so we have to be postured to, first of all, hear what he's saying. Those who hear these words of mine and puts them into practice. Dang. Goodness, God. I got to listen to you, and then I got to do what you say. I'm pretty sure we just read that's what love is it not? To obey the commands of God. Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice, that's the person who is wise and has built their house on the rock. So, I love the analogy of the house built on the rock and the firm and the foundation and so forth, but I think he was showing me, you're spending way too much time on the metaphor. You're looking so much at the metaphor, you're missing the first two parts that I'm telling you need to be doing, listening to me and doing it. He said, now if you do those two things, your life will have stability. That's where the stability in my relationship, it comes from, because he's already loving me. The problem is I hadn't been doing a real good job loving him back, which creates this instability in the relationship. It's on me. It's not on him. So we go, okay, so how do I do my part of this relationship? Hear these words of mine and then put them into practice. Hear these words of mine and put them into practice. Hear these words of mine and put them into practice. Now, today, we're doing something a little bit different today. Okay? I didn't know today was all going to be about doing something different. But it's going to be about doing something different. I really didn't plan all that. God does, but we just stumble upon it and go, well, I'll be dang. I think you kind of had all that set up. Today, we're going to have an old-fashioned opportunity for you to come share what's on your heart. Now, this isn't, a come up and do a whole sermon and all that kind of thing. It's to do this. Now, in saying that, let me put some things out here. This isn't, oh, dang, now here's my chance, Here we go, and we grab the mic, and, that's not that. This is if he is calling you, if he's speaking to you to share something, then do it. Those of you, everyone who hears my voice and puts it into practice, we have an opportunity today to have stability in our relationships with him. To walk in obedience. That doesn't mean that this is no pressure thing. This is no, well, if you love God, you'll come up here. No, it is not that. Okay? This is if God's put something on your heart, if he's quickening your heart, you may go, well, I don't know what to say, or I'm not a good speaker, or they don't know me, or I don't, all that. Set all that aside. If he is quickening your heart, then you're going to have an opportunity to come and share what he puts on your heart. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. This is between you and him. Between you and him. Will I obey what he's saying? And then do it. I'll share real quick. I'm not going to go through the whole stories. I've told it a million times. But I can tell you when I was in college, there was a time when we were going around the class, introducing yourself, and God put it on my heart. I was supposed to say, I'm Alan Metzel, and I have a personal relationship with Jesus. And, I was about to pass out. I can't believe you're asking me to do this, God. Can I say something else? Can I, all those kind of things. And, I'm sweating bullets. I'm clammy. I'm about to pass out. And this isn't a church school. I mean, this is just college. And when it came to me, I was like, ugh. And I said it. I'm Alan Metzel, and I have a personal relationship with Jesus. And I don't know what else happened after that, because I about passed out, And everybody else talked. I don't know what all they said, But that was a breakthrough moment for me in my life. And ever since that day, it's always been a little bit easier. And now when he tells me to share it, I can just do it. I've been through the almost passing out thing. Maybe today's your pass out day. I don't know. But be obedient to him. Be obedient to him. And so I'm going to go over here and sit down. And as the Lord leads you, come up and share what's on your heart. And we'll let him direct. And then at the end, I'll come back up and close this up. Okay? I'm going to trust